today I'm really pleased to have Caileigh Peterson with us from Midland. And Midland, as you may know, has a fairly nice long history of products that broadcasters and hams use. And we're going to talk about the radio, particularly the ER40 here and its siblings that Midland has brought out. And Caileigh, I'm just going to turn right over to you and let you introduce yourself some more.
Thank you. My name is Caileigh Peterson. I work for Midland Radio. So I'm sure you guys have all heard of Midland CB radios over the years. One of the first US manufacturers of those. We've kind of evolved since then, and now are really into GMRS 2A radios, FRS radios, but as well as our emergency and NOAA weather radios. And feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. But basically, I'll just give you guys a little overview of Midland, what we do, and then the importance of having an ER40 and different use cases that you might find and some of the features that make it really special. Like I said, Midland's been around since 1959, big with the CB radios. We still make a couple of those CB models. However, we have generally found that more and more people are switching from CB radio to GMRS 2A radio. So with that came the launch of our micromobile GMRS 2A radios, typically mounted in cars. Some people use them as base stations at home. So big in the ag world, along off-roaders, and anyone doing that. So GMRS really goes a lot further than CB. It has a nicer sound quality since it's on that FM range rather than the AM that the CBs are on. So you lose some of that famous CB static. So it's a lot easier to talk to people. But something that we're really proud of is our weather and emergency radios. So those, we have a variety of different products. We have our gold standard, which is the WR120. And I think is there a way for me to share my screen?
Yep, bottom of the screen, little green splotch there that says share, then select it. And then on the lower right hand, click on share.
Here we go. Here's share screen. Okay. So you should be able to see this. Can you guys see this now? So this is our most popular NOAA weather radio that we have. It just is a really good life-saving device to have in your house, at your radio station, at your TV station, school, business, wherever you are. So this is basically our gold standard. This is the most popular one. So it has SAME easy localized programming. So you can actually program your weather radio to go off in your specific area. And in the coming months, we'll have a software update where you can, a lot of counties are splitting up their county to kind of localize those alerts even more. So the things that devices like this do is they alert you to over 60 different kinds of alerts. So whether that's a tornado, a hurricane, wildfire, Amber Alert, these alerts go off and give people the time necessary to kind of enact their emergency plan and seek shelter, seek safety, whatever they need to do. So that's our most popular of those. But specifically what I wanted to talk about today is Midland's ER40 emergency crank radio. This product's been around, I think, for about a year and a half or so, maybe a little bit longer. So this ER40 is super easy to use, and this is perfect. You can use it in your home if you're worried about losing power due to storms, but it's also a really good product to have, if you're at the office, you're at the studio, if you're, out and about traveling or evacuating, this radio is perfect for that. So the main purpose of this emergency radio, though, is to provide NOAA weather radio information, similarly to that other radio. However, you don't have to program this radio. It adjusts to whatever area you're in. So that's why it's perfect for people who are on the go. It also features AM FM radio, and it has several different types of power. So you have solar power, you have a hand crank, you have rechargeable batteries, and you can plug it in with micro USB as well. So it's just perfect for when you're out and about. And I know a lot of you guys have familiarity with, radio. But from where I come from, my background, specifically before I started working for Midland Radios, I actually was a reporter for a couple TV stations. So I was in that career for about 7 years. And as a reporter, I was heading out on scene a lot. And this is something that I wish I would have had with me, because obviously, you're out and about, or even if you're at the station, you're there during periods of severe weather or potential emergencies. So having something like this is really great, because you'll get that information and those alerts straight from the National Weather Service. So you don't have to wait on anybody else or your cell phones to get that information. So it'll come directly to this device. One question that we get a lot is, well, my cell phone can do all of this. And your cell phone does do a lot of things, but a big reason that it's important to have a device like this is because oftentimes in storms, severe weather, or in just busy locations, the towers will either become damaged or sometimes overwhelmed. So with these types of devices, you'll just be able to have an extra way of receiving those alerts. I will stop sharing my screen. I have the ER40 right here. So it's a really nice size that fits, it won't take up a lot of room, and it's super easy to use. It also features a flashlight with an SOS strobe. So great for navigating power loss or, just dimly lit areas as well. But really, this device is all about saving lives and just keeping people safe with the power of information, and just getting them that information that much quicker. That's kind of my whole spiel on Midland and weather and emergency radios. And I was just wondering if anyone had any questions or anything, or any anecdotes they wanted to share or whatnot.
Well, first of all, Caileigh, thank you for being with us. Let me ask this question. And you didn't mention the solar charger very much, but can you just show that off a little bit? And how do you know offhand how long it takes to charge?
I think that would depend on, your environment, how long that would take to charge. What I do know is that these devices, because you're not transmitting and receiving with these devices, they do stay in power for a long period of time. So for instance, I've had a friend that's taken this on a camping trip, and they used it over the course of several days, but before having to worry about any recharging methods. But this is a look at the solar panel, kind of see, hopefully it's not causing too much of a glare. So this is a solar panel right here.
Well, that's good.
And
there's a crank.
Yeah. So here's the hand crank. So it comes right here in the back, and then hand cranks right here.
So if you're at night and there's no sun, you're not SOL.
Yeah. So it just has several different sources of getting that battery, which is really key and crucial for those types of environments.
Good. Somebody here in the chat just asked if you would demonstrate the hand crank.
Perfect.
He also asked, how will you notify the public when updates are available?
I'm guessing that person is referring to the software updates to our WR120. That's something that's rolling out with our newer radios, so that'll come across. However, the ability to program locally to the WR120 already exists on your radio. This update will just make it a little bit easier and user-friendly. And I do want to note that this specific localized programming in which emergency managers are working with the National Weather Service to split up counties, that isn't happening everywhere. It's up to the emergency manager and the National Weather Service in your area to determine that that's something they want to do, and that they work together to determine the best way to split up the county. But we are seeing that become more and more prevalent across the country.
Actually, Pima County here is one of the counties they started with, and we had a little input with the National Weather Service, and they adjusted their boundary just slightly because of some things we told them. But yeah, that's sort of partial county alerting now. One of the things in that 100 version, I saw the word tornado in the picture. Is that and that's a nice thing, I think, both from the standpoint of if you didn't immediately see or hear the alert tones go off and weren't looking at the radio, but it's there to see. Or with the 40 here, you can listen to the Weather Service so that it's not just the fact that you got the alarm. But is that scrolling a tornado? Does it scroll the whole message, or is it just showing you the one word shortcut to the 3-letter code?
So the way that the WR120 that I was showing works is once there is an alert issued by the National Weather Service, your radio will automatically go off, and it's very loud. It'll pop you straight out of bed. Living here in the Midwest, summertime, it goes off quite a bit. But so it'll go off, and then when you walk over to your radio, it'll say, for instance, tornado warning or tornado watch, whatever that specific alert. So that's a really nice feature. But then when you press the button on the radio to turn off that loud alert noise, it actually reads you the broadcast information from the National Weather Service, from that local National Weather Service office. So you do have that ability. We also have attachments for the WR120 that are for the hard of hearing community and the blind community, which is a pillow shaker and a strobe light. And you can just simply plug those accessories if you purchase those, into the back of the radio, and it'll go off similarly to the WR120 with those devices, and it'll have that information on the radio as well.
Oh, it's very nice. I guess there's one other question that I would have here, and I will turn to some of the other folks, and that is, would you also be able to attach it to a larger display so that maybe you could put it in a control room and have it read out the alerts?
Right now, those are the accessories that work for it. But I will say that when looking at the WR120, it is because A, it's loud, so they'll go there automatically. But B, it's really easy to read, and the information is straight from the National Weather Service, and it's the volume is loud as well.
Well, I know some stations use one of these big lights. I don't know, what do you call them now? Scrolling LED lights, and they'll read out from some of the EAS receivers what the alert actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, Beta Bright. Thank you, Bill.
I do see a question about the difference between the ER40 and the ER310. The ER310 is one of our other emergency radio options. So I think one of the biggest differences between those two radios, the ER310 and then what I'm showing, the ER40, is size is probably going to be the biggest difference for sure. The ER40 is a lot more handheld. The 310s, it's not like it's huge, but it's definitely bigger than a walkie-talkie. So that's one of the main differences. The 310 is kind of our more premier option. It does have some additional features. Its battery is a little bit longer. It does feature like an ultrasonic dog whistle, and a couple of other features like that. But it does have the same power options. So you're not missing by getting the ER40, you're not going to miss out on those different power options that the ER310 has.
Well, that's great. Bill, I'm going to take advantage of knowing that you're there and ask if you have any comment. Bill Robertson is one of the big guys at DASDEC. I cut you off.
Big guys is an interesting statement, but
have you been eating too much again?
No. We are. I did set my my scale back 10 pounds during Thanksgiving, so nonetheless, no. I think Mary, you brought up the question about serial outputs. I mean, I think I've got two of these radios myself, just as backups, because the hand crank thing is an outstanding feature that you need, and the ability to be able to have this kind of information. I don't have one of the table side ones, which has the display, but I have two of the other ones, and I think they're good to keep in the glove box and other things like that, just as a kind of thing if you need to get it. I can't get weather radio off my, I've got all of the other things, HD radio in my vehicle. I've got Sirius XM. I've got all the other stuff, but no NOAA. And that's on top of my little ham radios that I have too, because these things are just convenient. So if someone has it, they can plug it in there. So I like them. I like Midland radios anyway. So.
And one note on that is that these work really well in conjunction with the desk side radio, the desktop radio, the WR120 that I was showing. The WR120 is perfect for home, and it does have battery backup when it's not plugged into the wall. So if you do lose power, but together they are the perfect kind of a device, because you can get that initial beginning alert, that information straight from the desktop WR120. And then if you do lose power, or you're evacuating, or just even if you're out and about, these are a great device to have kind of as that storm might progress. So they work really well. While you don't use them necessarily together, they do work in conjunction with each other very nicely.
It looks like you have the WR300 and 400, which the 300 is AM FM weather again, and that's the table radio, correct?
Yes. So there's three options for those. There's the WR120, which is what I had showed on my screen, but we do have the WR300 and the WR400. They both provide, they all provide WR120. It is just a different option where the 200 or the 300 and the 400 just have a little bit more upgraded features, in that they do also include AM FM radio and have more clock features. So, but typically what we see people purchase more often than not is the WR120.
Well, I think it's an excellent product, and certainly for areas with lots of alerts, as you say, in the Midwest, I think that's something that most people should have because they're not always tuned into the radio station.
And one thing that we've also seen across other portions of the country is that something like this, the ER40 or the 210 or the 310, those emergency radios that are more mobile, they're great for areas, down south that are affected by hurricanes. So they can get that alert and they continue to receive those alerts if they have to evacuate. Similarly, out on the West Coast, when we see wildfires as well, we've just heard horrible, we have a meteorologist on staff who works really closely with a lot of emergency managers, and then also with the National Weather Service as well. And just horrible alerts of, towers getting damaged and people not getting the correct information that they need in order to evacuate, or if a fire is in their area. So that's definitely something that we're continually, encouraging people to get a radio.
That's good. Now, I will tell you that I think the FM is a pretty nice section to it. Sounds pretty good. AM is not too bad either. I'm a fair piece down the road from the nearest National Weather Service, and it comes in clearly. So that's good. Brian wants to know, do you have a weather radio that isn't switched by EAS tones? That is one I can use as my receiver for my EAS box.
I'm not entirely sure on that one. But I think the weather radios work primarily with the emergency management alerts that come from the National Weather Service.
Well, I think what he's saying is that he wants a continuous weather output, and if you plug power into the ER40, for instance, probably the other ones as well, you'll tell me, yes, you can turn this thing on and listen to the weather and feed it out.
Yeah, the WR120 or the 300, the 400, and then is the one that you want for that, because they do have battery backup power, but primarily they get their power from being plugged into the wall. So you can really easily just like leave the weather snooze button on and listen to the broadcast continuously.
Well, yeah, and then there's another facet which he asked in the question, and that is if he has an EAS receiver and he wants to decode any of the alerts, he wants to have a constant audio stream coming out, and that you can do.
Yes.
Is there a headphone jack out or a audio out?
Yes, there should be. And that's where then you would primarily put the accessories as well, for those other accessories that we sell that are, the pillow shaker and the strobe lights as well.
You're getting lost in the chroma key there, Barry.
I can hold this up this way and you can see it that way. And
I can really quickly go grab my WR120 that I have plugged into my wall too.
Okay.
Since I'm working from home and I have mine set up, so I can go grab that really quick.
Sure. While Caileigh is doing that, I'll just raise the question here. Any other questions that you have, feel free to ask. Press your space bar or alternate A to unlatch your microphone, and we will be able to hear you. Or if you want me to call on you, just raise your hand, little thing that you can do there. Or if you're one of our large group over here on YouTube live, please feel free to use the chat thing here and raise a question if you would like to get some information.
So this is the WR120, what it looks like. And then behind the antenna, here are all the, try and see this if you can read. These are all the external ports that you have back there.
So any other thoughts, comments, questions?
So the external alert would be the audio output from the WR120.
That should be it.
Okay.
And I'm sure these are available direct from Midland, or are you at Amazon or Best Buy or something like that as well?
Yeah, so you can find the weather radios, all of them, on our website. We do also sell them on Amazon as well. And I think they are also at some Ace Hardware locations and places like that.
Actually, Brian, I think the external alert is a switch closure or something to activate a light.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I have a couple of Midland radios, and they have that.
Yeah. I mean, not to harsh your buzz, Caileigh, but it doesn't look like there's a headphone jack out.
There very well might not be. I just know that that's where like all of our other accessories plug into, and it's a pretty standard port. So that's something I would have to ask like our product management team about.
Okay.
Actually, I have an older an older radio. You can see it somewhere. Well, at any rate, it does have an earphone output. And I also have, I think it's the WR 310 or 320.
ER310. There's the ER310 that is red and black.
Yeah.
That's an emergency portable one.
Yes. I think that has an earphone output too.
Okay.
I'm going to guess if you want a more advanced radio like that, then you would need to look at the 300 or the WR300 or the WR400. Those radios, not typically, they do have more features than the WR120. The WR120 is kind of our basic just model that we work to try to get out to as many people as possible in order to keep everyone alert.
Do you guys do any private label manufacturing? Like, say, like for First Alert, they have some products out. They look kind of like yours. Are they Midland products?
I am not sure on that. We just work to make ours public alert certified and work with NOAA Weather Radio as well.
Okay.
Any other questions, folks? It's a nice little product here that you could recommend to your listeners, as well as to have, as Caileigh said, in your glove box or toolbox, or have one at the transmitter site or whatever place you might need to be.
It looks like the 400 has external audio on the back, but not the 120.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one typically has that. Not typically, I keep saying typically. That radio does have more features like that. So it has the alarm clock and everything like that. So there are additional features to that. We just typically, and that's a great radio. Obviously, we just talk mostly about the 120 a lot because it comes in at a lower price point and is more accessible to the general public. And we work with a lot of county emergency managers who secure grant funding for that to provide those radios to their counties.
Can you identify this radio? If I can, yeah, this one.
I can't see it, but that looks like an older version of the 300.
Yeah, it is an older radio, but the tag on the back is worn away. So
if I haven't seen one since my time like Midland like that, but it looks like it would just be an older version of the WR300.
Well, my issue is I'm without an external antenna. The weather stations are very weak here. So what do you offer in an antenna for most of the radios?
So unfortunately, we don't offer external antennas for our weather radios. I think that's something that our product team is looking into and is looking into finding more information about. We just have the fixed antennas that come on it.
Yeah, that doesn't work where I am.
Well, that's something I can take to my product team and talk to them about. And I know our meteorologist works continuously with the National Weather Service to continue to improve the signal across other portions of the country who maybe don't have a station or a transmitter as close to them.
This is a problem with the National Weather Service. They do have a lot of areas which they do not cover very well, and it's one of those things about funding, I guess. And I try to help them, for instance, with the Native Americans that are 60 miles west of here and cannot hear the National Weather Radio. And it's hard to get anything. It's a bureaucratic mess. So I asked, how about if you make a stream available so they could just pick it up on their computer? And that doesn't seem to be something very easy either, but we keep working at it.
I know our meteorologist is working closely with the National Weather Service on different initiatives, such as the NOAA Weather Radio Modernization Act that is currently moving through Congress to kind of update and improve transmitters across the country. So we do work on different pieces like that with the National Weather Service to help get that information to people.
I was going to speak up here. I've lived in two places here, East Bay, San Francisco, in Atlanta, where I was within 5 miles line of sight to a kilowatt NOAA weather 162 megahertz radio, and you could light a cigarette with it. And in this area, there's like 4 of them. You can get them from Monterey on up to Santa Rosa and stuff. So, and at GPV, we maintained 3 or 4 of those. We actually we were paid to do that at some of our tall towers, including Savannah and Atlanta. And I've got much respect for the coverage. I'm sure being 162 megahertz and limited to, I think it's a kilowatt transmitter. I don't know what the ERP is, probably something like 10 kilowatts, that they don't blanket the entire country. But I was going to give them a good word for my experience with them. They're gangbusters. It caused a lot of intermod in some of my scanner receivers. They're so powerful here.
Well,
I just saw the message come through about this window mount antenna, and that is compatible with the WR120, W300, WR300, and the WR400. I don't know specifications on mounting and equipment like that, but it is compatible with those radios.
the radio I just showed you does have an external antenna input, an RCA jack.
Yeah.
You know, as a ham operator, as most everybody on here is, and MacGyver is the guidance, put up an outside antenna and then just clip it to that telescoping antenna. Has got to help.
That's certainly one way of doing it.
I think a $4,000 loop antenna would be appropriate for a $75 radio.
Or a bunch of alligator clips. Very good. Very good. Okay. Well, Caileigh, I really sure appreciate your coming and talking with us today and showing this off. And maybe you're welcome to hang around and see if more questions come up. But we certainly do appreciate your being here.
Yeah, I actually am going to head to another meeting, but Barry, if there's any more questions, feel free to reach out. Also, you can reach us on social media at Midland USA, and then our support team as well, which is available on our website. So happy to answer any further questions.
Very good. And I've got one for Sarah, and I'll send that to her later on here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, are you still there? Can't quite see.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Maybe maybe we can continue the AS for just a few more minutes and have you make a comment or 3 about this crazy delay for implementation next week.
I mean, not much to say. Filings by a couple of people to the FCC were taken, and the FCC ran with it. So, you know, the response that we've heard is, you know, why only one? There's been a couple of things that Ed could talk. Our Ed could talk a lot more because he does more with the regulatory side as his job function. But we've also seen some other filings asking for extensions for other reasons. People, you know, late to the party, other things. It seems like no matter where you set the deadline, someone is going to run into a foul of some way to not make the deadline. So I think that, you know, understanding what's going on and the fact that the FCC was requested specifically for that one vendor, and they granted it for that vendor. So, you know, kudos for the FCC for allowing the extension. It seems in my, just outside of work or anything else like that, it seems like it would have been, easier to just, instead of make it across all of them, but they focused on one particular vendor, which to me is kind of a strange thing, but that's what they did with the information that they had and the request that they had in front of them. So there wasn't a request for just a general change. It was a request that was very focused, and that's what they did.
That raises a couple of issues. One, of course, most of what's in your most recent update is television oriented text streaming and such. And the one thing that radio is involved with is fixing the CAP discovery to 10 seconds?
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is that as we've pointed out before, we've had trigger cap polling, which is the function that the FCC have mandated now. We've had that since 2018 with our version 4 release. So that by itself is able to be programmed for what the FCC wants. It's a more arduous task because you have to do it for every event. If you have version 4 versus version 5.2, which we have, which takes into account you must do it, so it just does it automatically. But you're correct, Barry. The other elements in there have to do with the message context, the naming convention, dropping certain things about how it's going to be explained. Again, a broadcast station or versus, how I'm trying to remember the exact term of, not a PEP station, but other elements that have more of an impact on the text side of things. So nonetheless, we all play in kind of cross market. So the rules being that as they are, those seem to be pretty straightforward, but they are part and parcel of the mandate that's due next week.
So theoretically, though, a station with a version 4, if they went through each of the different alerts that they would be using and program them for 10 seconds, they would be in compliance.
They would be in partial compliance because, again, they don't have the changes to the text and the handling of the deprecation of the events. So yeah, you would be in partial compliance, but I can't say that you'd be in full compliance. So you really do have to, do everything they say.
For radio anyway. Mark mentions here something in the Daily Digest, and Mark, you want to tell us what that is?
Well, just that I saw that a group of stations in Mississippi was granted a waiver to have more time to both get a grant and then order the necessary 64-bit boxes. And they'll continue to operate their 8-bit boxes until all that happens. They got a reprieve until March.
Yeah, and again, that's a single filing. So yeah, and if someone files with the FCC, they're looking at them, and that's an appropriate response.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any problem with it. I just saw that.
Yeah,
been keeping track of it, and also there's no for those of us with Sages, there's nothing beyond the fact that Sage put up a note and said you got a waiver, and that they haven't updated anything further in the last couple of days.
Yeah, and the Mississippi stations too, as you pointed out, Mark, it's really about the fact that they've been granted funding out of the CPB, the FEMA grant into the CPB, and when those monies become available. So again, a very appropriate response by the FCC on that.
Yeah, I had no problem with it. I just thought it was interesting to see something decent about EAS in there. So,
yep.
Is there anything else that you guys have in the pipeline, Bill, that you want to mention?
We've got a version 5.3 coming.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's kind of like that inevitable march of stuff, and we're going to have some pretty exciting stuff. We think for NAB that this group will, I think, champion around. So we'll have more to converse about later. But our version 5.3 is really just a couple of other things. One is really more focused on TV with some modifications to our HDMI output. Some of the things like that. So we've got a couple of other tweaks that are going to be coming.
Okay. And certainly those of your customers that have purchased the service agreement will get that update without cost.
Yep. Anyone that's on version 5 will get that. So anybody that has our current version 5, 5.2, which is the most recent release that covers all of the FCC mandated requirements. But if you're in version 5, version 5.3 is no charge.